Well, here's the thing. When we had our first child was Sam, and Sam was fine at birth, and then Susan became pregnant with our next child, which was Sophie, and when she came out of Susan, I knew right away that there was something wrong. That she came out, there was something kind of weak about her. Like Sam had come out with this real force, and Sophie came out sort of like she was very weak, like she didn't have any force. And I turned to the doctors and I said, you know what, I think there's something really, really wrong here.
And then they placed her back on my breast, and she just lay there really quietly, really peacefully, I thought at that moment. It was very much unlike Sam, my first child, because she didn't move, she didn't cry, she just lay there. But within a few hours, it was evident that there was something wrong. When Sophie was finally diagnosed, we received the diagnosis of Prader-Willi syndrome. And the geneticist handed me a brochure about Prader-Willi syndrome at all different ages and what it meant. And I went home and I started to read this thing, and I just burst out crying. I was just distraught because it was a nightmare what I was reading. And my mother, who was a psychologist, came into the room at that point and saw me on the floor just sobbing. And she looked at me and she just straight in the eyes and she said, "You have a child that needs you to bring up. You deal with it day to day, and that's it. You have to get on with it and just pull yourself together and do what needs to be done." And at that moment, it was a very useful bit of advice.
He was the most adorable kid I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think Sam is really adorable, but I think that Sophie took the cake. And she was really cute. And you couldn't hold her enough, you couldn't love her enough. And I never saw her as a disabled kid. I saw her as a quirky kid, but never disabled. You know, there was this, it's almost magical, the time with her when she was little, and Sophie's relationship with her brother Sam. And it never occurred to him that his sister had any kind of special needs. So until he was probably 6 or 7, he just thought she was just a normal kid, so he treated her like one. And that was the gift.
We met leading a 3-month expedition into the Arctic with high school students from around the world. I always thought we were going to go off and live in the woods and lead expeditions all over the world.
And one of the things that I wanted to do with the kids was to take them to Alaska and to live in the bush for for a couple of years and to raise them there, but that was not going to happen, you know? And all this stuff about dreams and all that crap was all, was just not in the cards. There was a point where the disability began to kick in, and there were some, the first signs of some meltdowns and some difficult things, and our world really began to change then. And the other thing that complicated it too was that we had Sam, and we didn't, it was really important to Susan and myself that Sam's childhood not be too damaged by this disability. And not that Sophie wanted his life to be damaged, because she didn't. There was no choice on her part.
And there were things that Sam saw, her meltdowns and the stress that it created in the family and the anxiety of never knowing when the next one was coming and how we deal. There was nothing, quote, normal about our family in that sense.
I had amazing parents. I also I think I just adapted to the situation somewhat as best I could. I think the way that I took it was that I saw my parents were having such a hard time with Sophie that I eventually tried to cause them as little trouble as possible growing up after a certain point. So I they wanted to be, parents to me and be extra parenting. And I kind of tried to avoid that because I knew that I felt that they had extended themselves so much with Sophie as it was. Yeah, I mean, eventually after a while we realized that the best system for keeping Sophie out of the fridge and the pantry was to lock everything. So my dad installed a lock on the pantry door and chains basically across the fridge and freezer that we all had that were padlocked. So we had to have keys to unlock everything in the night or whenever they were locked. I don't remember when exactly besides the nighttime. And that was, it probably from the outside it was bizarre as hell, but I pretty much got used to it. I understood that it had to happen, I think. Yeah, I didn't want to go to college right away. I didn't want more school, and I probably needed to detox emotionally from all that stuff. Maybe. I'm just making that up. That could be a thing, it could be not. I don't know why I went, but I definitely left and went 5,000 miles away for some reason.